Thank you for spending time with me. I appreciate your time.
Oh, I'm
Um,
so happy. But
yeah, I've been looking forward to speaking to you because I know that you um, are doing a lot of awareness. I'm really interested in asking you about the lipedema shoes. I don't know why I'm saying shoe, but
right now it's just one shoe.
yeah. So yeah, I just thought it'd be great to get together and just hear about what you're doing, who you are. So if you introduce yourself, where you are, what you're doing, and we can just chat from there.
Sure, that sounds good.
Yeah.
So, my name is Susan O'Hara, and I live in Oklahoma, right in the very center of the states. And I am a stage 3 lipedema patient. I've had 3 surgeries. And Amy, I'll tell you just a tiny bit about my story. I'm probably going to run some of your questions. But a few years ago, I had been living with lipedema since my child was born. My son is 22, will be 22 in a couple of months.
Mhm.
And what happened to me is I've always been big. And so I had normal big girl legs, like whatever normal is, right? And I did injectable fertility drugs because I had polycystic ovary syndrome and just couldn't get pregnant. And so I went in, had a really, really rough delivery where they had to do some emergency surgery on me right on the delivery room table because I was about to bleed out.
Wow. Okay.
And I believe that the doctor cut some lymph nodes. And so I had, on top of all of these crazy hormones that I'd been taking, I had this something cut whenever I was in there delivering. And when I left the hospital, I left with stage 3 lipedema. I mean, my legs looked completely different, nodules and everything. It's really weird. They just developed that quickly.
Mm.
And I thought I had cancer in my legs. I really did. And I was not, I was raising my kids and I was like, I'm not going to deal with this right now. Just if something happens, fine. But I didn't even know what to look for. Like I tried workout routines and I had lap band a couple of times and did all the diets and everything. And one day I went in because I was taking my Girl Scouts on a trip to New York City where we were going to be walking a lot and I was having some feet problems. And I went to a lady who was making a custom brace for my foot because my feet were so swollen that I couldn't buy just an off the shelf brace. And she said, "Who's treating your lymphedema?" And I said, "No one. I've never even heard that term before." And when I left there, I immediately came home to the internet and started digging and digging on that word. And I posted my pictures on a couple of forums on the internet. And ladies looked at me and they said, "You do have lymphedema in your left leg, but you have lipedema really bad. You've got it in your legs." And that made me realize like there's not enough information out here for people. So I changed my insurance. So here in the States, I was a government employee for many, many years, and we could change our insurance program once a year. And I changed my insurance to a company that was known to provide surgery for lipedema and immediately went and had surgery because my calves were getting so bad that they were rubbing together even almost down to the ankles
Okay.
and they hurt all the stuff, bruising, hurt heavy. And when I came out of surgery, I had no plans to do any of this stuff, right? But when I came out of surgery, I had like this inspiration and I was like, I'm just going to record it. And so they're driving me from the surgery center to like an overnight care thing, like where there's nursing care and stuff. And I just hit record on my phone. And my first video on YouTube, if you go look at it, it's like this, Amy. It's like, "Hey guys, it's Susan."
Yeah. Yeah. I
Right.
know.
My eyes are all swollen and everything.
Yeah.
And so I just started this channel and I just started recording the recovery from my surgery. And what ended up happening was, as I was in California for 3 weeks or for 3 days in a hotel by myself, and then 3 separate times I was there for a week at a time, I was getting 1,000 messages a day from women who were just clamoring for information about what is this, what treatment, how are you doing, what's the recovery like, just so many questions. I did not rest the whole time I was recovering. And so I came home and I started the channel and I started legslikemine.com. And then I went on Amazon and I looked and there were only 7 books about lipedema at all on Amazon. And just to compare it, last week I was doing some research for something else, and I just looked up how many books are on breast cancer, over 150,000.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I'm a really good writer. I worked for the government all these years doing paperwork. I wrote a book. So it's just like right now it's starting to really, really snowball. Like I might gain 10,000 followers in a day right now. It's just gotten really,
Right.
really big. And so my goal is to let women feel like they're not alone, because I know me and my mom too, she also has it, and she always says the most terrible things about her body. Like, I'm a freak of nature. And I'll say I have elephant feet. I mean, just terrible things about herself. And I don't want women to feel like they're not a real woman, and that they fit in and that they belong, and that there's a group of people here to support each other. And then also to connect them to real medical information, not made up like crazy things like wrapping your legs in cabbage and all that stuff that we do because we're desperate. So that's what I'm doing. And I've been doing it now for almost 3 years. And it is so satisfying, Amy. I really, really love it. And I just wanted to say, I applaud you for starting your channel too, because we need more people like you who are willing to put yourself out there, share your story, so women can find you and then connect in with the broader community and not feel like they're alone. So thank you for doing your channel, and I totally support you.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. That's really nice of you to say. Yeah, I suppose my kind of story is very similar. Apart from I found out about lipedema on the radio, just as a radio talk show on the BBC. Yeah, so it's just spiraled from there. But I can empathise about the fertility hormones because we went through IVF. It wasn't successful, but that was like I want to say 7 years ago, and yeah, it's incredible like how it affected my body, and yeah, that's something that I don't know many people have experienced. So it's interesting you mentioned that because yeah, I've experienced that too.
Right.
And I think we really underestimate I mean, we talk about lipedema starts when you have a certain hormonal change, so puberty, menopause, but I don't think we really understand how it impacts you. I think once, because I definitely had lipedema from young, very young.
Mm.
You kind of think, well, if I've had an explosion at puberty, then it can't get any worse, but it just does. It's so. I mean, not for everybody, but for me personally, and it sounds like yourself after pregnancy and giving birth, it can just explode out of nowhere.
It really can. And so I'm 50 now, and I haven't hit menopause yet. I'm honestly, there's part of me that, I'm like, please bring on the menopause. But then there's another part of me, Amy, that is like, what's going to happen?
Yeah, it's scary. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think menopause is scary anyway because I was talking to my sister about it. It's like we don't know anything about it, as
Hmm.
we're not taught at school, all these things. But then when you've got any like condition or disease like this where it's just like a threat in the horizon where what's going to happen. And
There's one good part of it, and then everything else, it's just your whole body falls apart,
yeah,
So,
yeah,
but I'm here for. I'm doing everything I possibly can, and my diet will always be a challenge for me. It's my weak spot in my conservative therapies. And every single day it's a struggle to deal with my diet, because food is my crutch and food is all the things that it is to everybody else for me too.
hmm
And a long time ago, I decided that so I did lap band twice. And the first time I did it, I lost, and I'm sorry, I don't have the right measurements for it, but I weighed 367 pounds. Excuse me. And when I first had my first surgery, and I got down to 194, so I lost a lot of weight. And then my esophagus blew out. The pressure from the lap band actually caused my esophagus to sort of tear open, and so they took it out and replaced it with a lower pressure band. And after a few months, we saw that the esophagus was going to do it again, and so they just opened it up. I still have it. But I followed keto so faithfully. Like I went for an entire year with no sugar, not one bite, not one French fry, not one bread, nothing. And when he opened it up that second time, he said, "Okay, you can eat bread." And I left the hospital and I was like bring me the bread basket.
Yeah.
And my weight went boink right back up.
I know it's such a struggle for many of us, and I'm I'm quite anti-diet just from my whole life being dedicated, like you're saying, you try everything, and it. I think I've definitely have binge eating issues, or I did. I feel like it definitely under control now, but I feel like that may have added to my lipedema. Just restriction, then binging, then restriction, then binging. It's like your body doesn't know what it's doing, and I I always had the best intentions. I mean, we're taught the thinner the better, and I
Hmm.
think it's important to focus on nutrition if that's something people want to do. I like to think about what I'm consuming, but I don't restrict. But I think the whole dieting, it's kind of distracting from the real issue of lipedema. Like, yeah, watch what you eat if it brings you control and it helps you, but I think there's a lot of like diet shaming and yeah, like I wanted to speak to you as well about the Congress. There was a lot of focus on obesity and dieting to get rid of obesity. And it's good that they're doing the research. I mean, I'll ask for your opinion in a minute, but sometimes I think, can't we just look at other things? Because we know diets, like scientifically, well, restrictions, sorry, I should say, they aren't good for anybody, never mind people with lipedema. And, but that's just me. I think I'm just sensitive to diet talk and
I am too, and it's such a taboo subject. It's really actually pretty important. And so I'll kind of tell you, when I first had my diagnosis from my doctor, he's so kind and he's a wonderful doctor, but he told me, Susan, it's not your fault. And he said, you might as well go eat brownies and enjoy life before you have your surgery because there's nothing you can do to change it.
Mm.
And I really took that to heart. And I kind of I gave myself permission to sort of lose total control and just like almost binge all the time. And since then, though, so I had my first surgery in 2021. I've done a lot more research on the effects of especially sugar and carbs on our bodies. And I feel it. And so I have something else going on in my body where I can feel inflammation, that my first signs of inflammation actually happen right here.
Okay.
And so if I've really overdone it, I can tell when I've eaten something that kind of triggers it. And then my leg will blow up too, right?
Mm.
So now I've kind of come back to the middle where, and this is my theory on things, right? So I eat a lot. I eat a lot. I like to be filled full all the time. That's just kind of how I work.
I'm the
But
same.
what I've been,
I'm so glad
yeah,
that
I
you,
mean,
because you
yeah,
kind of think, oh, I'm not greedy, but I like food. I like eating it, and yeah, I don't like to be hungry. And
no,
I kind of have felt shame about that for ages. I'm like, actually, it's normal. Like, why would you want to be hungry? It's
it
yeah,
almost like hurts when I like if I wake up in the morning and I feel hunger pains, it's like, oh, I'm hungry. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
So I've come to this middle ground where it's like I know I need to sort of add some stuff to my diet to have a better rounded diet. Like I probably need to be adding more fruits and vegetables and I need to be, drinking more water and all that stuff, but I've quit thinking about what I need to take away.
That's
Like
yeah,
this
that's great.
yeah, this is for me. Life is not worth living. I get so much enjoyment from eating like cake and bread and all the things if we go to a dinner, I want to eat what everybody else eats, right? I get a lot of it. Just feels good to eat all the stuff, right? But what I can do is like selenium comes in Brazil nuts, right? Add a Brazil nut to your diet every day. It's good for your body. Or, I mean, because I went for years where I didn't eat a fruit at all. And it's like, okay, Susan, add an orange today. Go get yourself a fresh plum or whatever it is, right? So I'm trying to think of it that way of like, get more nutrition from food, but I'm not depriving myself anyway because I don't want to live my life feeling deprived anymore. I'm not going to do that. And I have to tell you this too, like I've come to terms with who I am. I'm still over 300 pounds, but I wear beautiful clothes. I think, you're beautiful. I'm
Yeah,
beautiful. You've got this lovely burgundy. I mean, like you're just as pretty as anybody else. And I've totally come to terms with like, I don't have to be rail thin. It is way too hard to be rail thin, and I don't want to live that life that it takes for me to be thin.
yeah.
So that's more of the approach I'm taking is I'm going to add some things to it, and I really am like instead of buying a whole cake, maybe if I want cake, I'm going to have cake, believe me. but we go to the store and we buy a piece of cake, and then that way I'm not like eating the whole cake all week long. I've quit with that diet chatter in my head, and my life is so much happier.
Yeah, it's true. I knew we'd get on over this. Like, I'm so glad it's come up because sometimes I don't like to talk about diets, but I know nutrition is important. And I'm exactly the same. It's like uh, you can make choices, but without cutting stuff out. So you could have bread. Sometimes I just want bread and butter, and then sometimes I'll say I'll have a tomato on top, and it's like it's about um, still having the pleasure and the enjoyment, but thinking about the little extras. And yeah, it's I think it's such a healthy way of thinking.
I think so too.
Yeah.
That deprivation mentality, because we've been through all the diets. I went vegetarian for 5 years trying to shrink my legs. It actually I gained a lot of weight when I was a vegetarian because Oreos are vegetarian. You know, um, but that deprivation mentality is so bad for us, and it sounds like you and I are the same way too. Where I've gone a couple of weeks, I've been so like I'm gonna not do anything bad, and then at the end of the 2 weeks I will lose total control and I'll go eat it all. It's better to just be consistent and just eat, you know and just live your life, and
Yeah.
then you don't have that. Like, I have no guilt about it anymore either. I will not let myself feel guilty about eating. I'm done
No,
with that.
yeah, I'm exactly the
Mhm.
same. It takes a lot of work to get to that place, but
Yes.
especially, I don't know if you're in different groups for lipedema, but there's always diets. And I understand there's so many people with lipedema and they have different wants and needs, but personally it's just not for me anymore. I'm probably an expert on diets at this point, and
Hmm.
it yeah, it for me it doesn't help my body. It makes me stressed and really affects my mental health. Just
Yeah.
like you're saying, when you have hunger and it hurts, I like internalize like that pain, and it makes you desperate, and it makes you obsessive every day, and
Mhm.
it's just not a way to live. I mean, some people enjoy doing those kind of things, but I don't, and yeah, it's not healthy.
Yeah. Same. I will tell you, I'm writing a book right now called Sugar Mamas, and I got a group of about 10 ladies together with a health and wellness coach, and she's so kind. And what we thought the book was going to be was about how we went in and we sort of figured out how to handle our sugar addictions. So it was all ladies like me who identified that we really like sugar and we think it was affecting our lipedema. And as we've gone through, every single one of us has been like, I'm not cutting out sugar. We're almost to the end of the 6 months that we've been working together. And what we've learned is that we have other issues. And when we go off and we eat, we have like a sugar binge or whatever, that we're really trying to deal with the other issues. And we have, like, so all of us have had some kind of bariatric surgery. We didn't know that before this all started. Everybody's got some other disease, some comorbidity that goes with lipedema, and they're all different. And so they all have different food sensitivities.
Yeah.
And I think the conclusion that we're going to come to is not what we thought, which was going to be, oh, a big research study needs to happen on the effects of sugar. I think the effects are take care of your mental health, eat what you want. And yeah, I mean, we know that sugar, if too much sugar is going to inflame us, but we've got way bigger fish to fry than dealing with the sugar issues. So the conclusion is more about mental health than it is about dealing with sugar at all. It's really been pretty fascinating to see it all
It
unfold. And
sounds really
every single,
interesting.
yes, all of us agree
Yeah,
that the sugar is not the issue.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I think many people watching this will probably think the same. Like it's probably like a very backwards way where we think I've got to diet to lose weight so I feel good about myself. Whereas it's
Hmm.
probably the other way, like you say, if I fix my mental health first, then I probably won't go for these crutches and these things that make me feel better just for a quick boost or whatever. And I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I'll be very interested in hearing what that conclusion is.
Absolutely. We know lipedema is ours to own. Like,
Yeah,
we have to do the conservative therapies and stuff. But if my quality of life is so lowered because of that diet change, I don't think it was worth it. Like, just to add years onto my life, I'd rather have really, really good years where I enjoyed all the parts of my life,
yeah,
you know?
no, I
So,
completely agree with that. I think that's such a good way of, yeah, thinking about life. And Yes, I'm glad we agree. It's nice talking to somebody that goes, I like bread and I'm proud of it, because I'm exactly the same. And I'm so fortunate that I don't have any food sensitivities, because I know people do, but I can eat
Mhm.
anything and I don't struggle. I mean, I have bowel issues, but that's a separate issue. But yeah,
Mhm.
lipedema wise, I don't have any issues. So I'm like, I'm going to enjoy it while I can.
Yeah. Live your
Yeah,
best life, live
yeah.
your biggest life that you possibly can. Absolutely. And believe me, right now, when you said the word bread, I thought about like a hot buttered roll coming out of the oven, and my mouth started watering.
Well, I won't tell you that I had a fresh pretzel before I came on on
Oh,
here.
that's wonderful.
Oh, I
Good for
love
you.
pretzels, just bread. It's why I enjoy going to Germany. I had my surgeries there and going to the Congress. I just love the bread there. Just every type of bread, pastry. Germany's nailed it for me.
Hmm. Right. I didn't spend enough time in Germany. We left the Congress a little bit early so I could come back and do some other commitments that I had. And we didn't eat too much of the local food, but I hear that the next Congress is in Rome. And
Yes.
believe me, the people who hang out with me in Rome will be drinking limoncello at every meal.
I'm sure it's a rule there, isn't
I think
it?
it's a law.
You've
Yeah.
got to have carbs with every meal and alcohol with every meal.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, we're going to have a great time. It'll be fun.
Yeah, it was fascinating, the Congress. I wanted to just speak to you a little bit about that as well. Because I've seen your YouTube video where you gave a quick, like, your thoughts, but I just wondered if you wanted to do another quick one again, what you took away from it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wrote a few blog posts about the things that were highlights to me. And so I was only at the Congress on the first full day of the Congress, right? And I when I was selecting like what one day I could be there for, I picked that day because it was more about the conservative therapies. Um, I'm on this lipedema education group here in the States where we're writing some articles and stuff about how you do self-care, right? So I'll just kind of walk through, I think, in order. So the first presentation was Mrs. Moffat, and she was the nurse
Yes.
who seemed to be so compassionate.
She's
And
incredible.
I thought it was, oh, she was so nice, right?
Yeah.
I thought it was really interesting that they started with her before they even did the opening welcome speeches. And her concept was it is all about our relationship with the patients. If we want to treat the patients, we've got to listen to them. We've got to treat them well. And if we she didn't use this word, but if we fat shame them or if we get off on the wrong foot, you could affect the way that her treatment goes for the rest of her life. So it's really important that you build that relationship with the patient and build a trust relationship. And then I'm just going to call a couple of things out. And I don't know if you're aware of some of the stuff that's happening behind the scenes, but she said there's an elephant in the room when she talked. And she was like, we've got to all come together. And so I'll tell you what I kind of have experienced is there are two groups of people in the lipedema world. There's this group led by Dr. Herbst, she's a researcher. She's been researching for a long time. And she has data that there is edema, swelling
I was gonna say.
in limbs, right?
Yes.
And then there's this other group, kind of led by some of the German doctors, not all of them, definitely not Dr. Godes, that are saying, it's more of kind of a harsh approach, in my opinion, where there is no edema in lipedema, and the compression's more for just how you look. And but then they go on to say, you've got to do the manual lymphatic drainage and all that stuff. So there are like two different factions, and they're going in two different ways. And I think the purpose of the Congress is to come up with one unified approach on like, we all agree that there's edema or there's not. And we all agree that these treatments are the right treatments. So that's what she was calling out when she said we're stronger together and we all need to work together, right? So she was just like bringing it up kind of gently, but then we had presentations by both different groups that talked about no edema and edema, right? So that's what was happening behind the scenes. So the next presentation that really spoke to me, and I was there for this one, was the presentation from a gentleman that works at the Roxbury Institute in Beverly Hills with Dr. Amron. And he was talking about the role of GLP-1 agonists, and those are the injectable weight loss drugs, right? And I was looking for more information, like what research has been done, because that question comes up all the time in the forums, and I wanted to provide sort of like what the official answer is on my blog. And basically, the outcomes of that one were that the agonists should not replace any conservative therapies or aggressive surgery if you've got lipedema, but they do help you to adhere to the more recommended diet, like reduce cravings and stuff like that, which I think is really good. And I'm on Ozempic myself, right? And then the third one was that they do have anti-inflammatory properties, which is very good because for me, like if I get into a flare type situation, it can put me down, you know? And so, you know, anything that will help me control inflammation without taking a handful of paracetamol or whatever, you know, is a good thing. So those were the takeaways. But the takeaway seemed to be like the tip of the iceberg. There needs to be a lot more research on how does it actually dissolve lipedema fat. They didn't have that yet. And that's what I was hoping to find out. Yeah. So that one was really, really good. And then the third one, that was my biggest takeaway, and I'm really trying to dig into this. There was a group of ladies that got up, and they were from a group called Galilee, and they talked about, they're all volunteers, and they talked about how they provide comprehensive, I think, 4-day workshops on how to care for yourself with lipedema. And you and I have been here a while. We know that if there's this much care with lipedema, this much of it is you taking care of yourself, and you're the one who's going to make or break the outcomes of your body, right? And so I wanted to bring that back home to the States to see if we could come up with some way to do these 4-day workshops, whether it's maybe we record webinars and it's just there for anybody or whatever. But I've taken their information and I'm translating it into English right now. And then I learned that there's another group. I think that Lipedema UK might be doing one, and then Scotland is doing one, and they're all free. Okay. And so I'm reaching out to them to get copies of their curriculum to see if I can copy that for you know, the States. And so that for me is something that is definitely missing in the worldwide perspective, is like, because all these questions I answer on my blogs all the time, those would all be answered by those workshops. You know, why is compression important? What types of compression? What exercise? You know, so those were the 3 biggest takeaways, and they were really good ones to send me off to the races to try and figure out what I can do from my perspective next.
Yeah, no, Christine Moffat, she was the lady to start with.
Yeah.
I get goosebumps when I think about it because I met her in the lift. She's from, well, she works locally to me. I'm Derbyshire based, she's Nottingham, so I was like, how amazing that you're here. And yeah, I was just fangirling, and I thought it was really fascinating how she said that people with lipedema may come with a lot of emotional baggage, so we need to be willing to put in the emotional labor to help them instead of just dismissing it. And I thought that was it's like so obvious when it's like any illness that's lifelong, or I mean, lipedema is cruel in the sense it affects your self-esteem, how you look, how the world looks at you, just everything. And I was just like, yeah, that's one thing that's missing. Every time you go to an appointment, you're just dismissed. And even if somebody acknowledges you've got lipedema, I mean, I'm speaking from the UK perspective, but even if they actually believe that you've got it or know about it, there's still very little labour, like she says. It's just then see you later kind of thing. And I thought that was just such a really interesting approach.
There's something missing, and again, I know our healthcare systems are different here in the States. You might have a doctor who they have only 15 minutes set for every single patient, and so I see the challenge is, you know, they have to get out the door or their whole day is blown. But that means that there needs to be more in the support structure, whether it's their nursing staff or they have extra staff, or people like you and I who, well, I take phone calls. I mean, and I probably shouldn't say that because it'll cause more people to call me. But I mean, there are women that I've taken phone calls when I've been swimming in the swimming pool, and they're just desperate. They just want someone to listen to them. Yeah. And that layer is missing of support for the women, you know, and it cannot be a structure where they have to pay, because so many women are on disability that have this, and their mental health is not always in the greatest state where they can go work some job to pay for all these things. It's got to be provided as either free from a volunteer service or part of a package that you get of full-on support from your doctor, not just surgery, but we're going to care for your whole body for the duration of your lifetime, and that's a gap that we can help fill.
Yeah, I definitely agree that the mental health side is really underrepresented, and
Mhm.
I mean we probably well I see people talk about it and stuff, but I think from like a holistic point of view, it's really not considered an issue, and it's probably the biggest issue because yeah, we have to live with our own brains and all our own thoughts, and yeah, I mean I've had surgery as well, and it doesn't cure your like self-esteem issues and confidence issues. If anything, it could potentially spiral you, and it's just it's so complicated. So I think that's so true about needing a more holistic approach to lipedema, not
We'll,
just yeah.
we'll figure it out though, don't you think?
Yeah, I thought it'd be great for you to speak about your new venture into lipedema footwear.
So my mom has lipedema. I think she's probably a late stage two, if I had to guess. She doesn't receive treatment for it. She's 75 years old. But when she was, and again, I'm sorry, I'm using the U.S. measurements, but she was tiny in high school, about 100 pounds. So that's, like a size 0 type person, just little bitty. But her legs were always big. And when she was in high school, she would eat 1 egg and 1 cup of tea every single day to try and get her legs to shrink. I think in that time too, in the 60s, there was so much pressure. I mean, she wore a girdle as a size 0. I don't understand it, but there was so much pressure. But even then, she could not wear boots. And then the 70s came along where everybody's wearing these fashion boots, and she couldn't wear the boots. So I have memories as a young child of my mom, again, saying terrible things about her feet and ankles. Her ankles, they're not cuffed, but it's really like a tree trunk coming down, right? I remember going to the shoe store with her, and she would see these beautiful fashion boots that she wanted to try on, and she'd pull them up, and just as they'd hit the ankle, they weren't going to go. And my mom, who is so prim and proper and doesn't drink and doesn't cuss, we're totally opposites that way. She would pull that boot off and throw it across the room, and she'd say, "Damn it!"
Yeah,
It's really traumatic to me, but it's funny when you tell it.
yeah.
Well, as I grew up, I got these giant feet. My dad had size 16 feet, and then I have this size 13 wide foot, right? So I've always struggled with shoes and trying to find just anything I could get my foot in. And then as my lipedema and lymphedema have progressed, my foot hasn't gotten longer, but it's gotten deeper. And so if I go to the store, well, I don't even look for shoes in the store because of the size in general, but if I find a pair of ballet flats, that top of the shoe cuts into my foot. And by the end of the day, my foot's puffed up and swollen like a bread that you're raising,
Yeah.
back to the bread. And so I might be able to sneak into something, but for the most part, I have been wearing men's trainers for ages and just trying to find, white ones. Thank God for the millennials, Amy, because they wear these white tennis shoes with their business suits. And so I'm just like, yes. But then I started seeing more and more pictures of women's feet, and it was like not in a positive way. It would be like people sneaking pictures of a lady on a subway whose feet, they're killing her, and her feet are just puffed out over the top, and making fun of people who their footwear doesn't fit and they're just trying to wear normal shoes, right? And so all these years that I work for the government, I have been doing project management for IT software. And it turns out you can take project management and use that for anything, building a house or making a shoe or whatever, right? So I thought, you know what, I can do this. I can tackle this with what I know how to do projects and stuff. So I got on YouTube. And again, none of the things we're doing would be possible without the internet. And I just typed in how to make shoes. And this lady named Susanna Davda popped up, and she's from the UK. And she was interviewing somebody from the footwear industry. And it turns out she's a consultant that helps people do startups with shoes. And so I was really nervous. I dropped her an email, and I was like, I told her a little bit about what I was wanting to do. would you be willing to take on the project? And she was like, absolutely. And she used to work for Doc Martens. I mean,
Oh,
she
wow.
was the big name shoe person, right? She said, yeah, I would love to take it on. And so we started working together, and she had me do like a competitor analysis worldwide to see if there was anybody in the world that was doing this. There, of course, are people who make orthopedic shoes, but I wanted to make shoes that look like normal shoes, right? And I wanted those calf boots for my mom and for all of us. I wanted those so bad. And so she found a designer. She knows a ton of designers, right? She found a designer that she thought that this would really sort of touch her heart and who had the expertise to be able to do it. And her name is Jess, and she's also from the UK. My whole team's from the UK. Um, and Jess went in and she really dug in and did all this research, learned about lipedema. She took, got all these pictures, and we did a ton of measurements on lipedema ladies' feet and figured out that the molds, they're called blasts, that they use to make shoes, they're pretty standard worldwide. And while the ends of them, like if you wear a pointy-toed shoe, the mold is going to be pointy. If you wear a wide shoe, the mold is going to be pointy. But the measurements on top for the depth of the foot, they never change. And it turns out a lot of people wear shoes that don't fit because we're all crammed into this mold, right? Mm-hmm. So we actually had to hire a last maker after we got the sort of the average of the measurements from the lipedema ladies, and he hand carved molds for us based on lipedema ladies, and they're deeper and they've got a wider like toe box, and the joint of our foot where we're at the very widest, where that flat cuts me, is way wider. And so we sent those over and we started calling manufacturers. And again, Susanna, she has the manufacturers in every country that makes shoes. She knows them all, right? No one wanted the project. No one wanted to break the mold. Yeah. And so we finally found a manufacturer that was willing to try it in their sample room. And we sent the mold, the foot mold over, and they're of course willing to do it at a price that's pretty comparable to basically like orthopedic shoes and stuff. But that whole industry, they are not set up to adjust their size, the depths of their shoes for any company. Like whatever brand it is, you can get wider, but no one's going, and I'm just going to call it fatter because that's really, a chunkier foot. So my hope is that once we get going and they realize that, oh my gosh, she's selling a ton of shoes to people for a market that we did not want, we didn't care about, we totally discarded. And we need to step it up and start offering shoes for this extra depth. And I think that what they're going to find out is way more than just women with lipedema are going to start buying these shoes because people are getting bigger, But Amy, I want to tell you a couple of stories. As I was doing focus groups on shoes, there's a lady in Canada, and of course it snows there all in the winter, heavy and all that stuff. She wraps her feet in saran wrap, in plastic wrap, so that she can just get to the car because she can't find boots. I've had other ladies. I got an email from a woman this week who told me she has not left her house in 6 months because she can't get her feet in a pair of shoes. Mm. That's ridiculous that the footwear industry isn't helping us, There's another lady so one of the questions I asked him in the focus group is like, what's your favorite pair of shoes? Send me a picture of what's working for you and stuff. And she sent me a picture of a pair of trainers, men's trainers. And the day she buys them, she goes in and cuts the entire side of the shoe out so her feet can hang out. So there's enough room. Oh, wow. And people who they buy, all they wear is flip-flops, and they cut the straps off of the flip-flops, and then they go get duct tape and make their own straps so that they're taller. It's so insane, the stuff that we do for like a basic human, almost like a right. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like shoes are everywhere. So the goal of it is absolutely not to get rich, but it is to help people get shoes on their feet, one, and then two, so the loafer we started with just to figure it all out, like to figure the depths and the supportive, bottom out. And once we've got that really nailed, I'm going to go in and make sandals and things you could wear to a wedding and things that make us feel like normal women because we deserve that. And every shoe I offer, I mean, they'll always come in black because we need that. But whenever I put out anything in a new collection, it's going to come out in some crazy color too, because we have not had
Yeah, I
that.
know.
I
Yeah.
haven't had that. So, yes. Yeah. So
That's
I'm really
great.
excited about it.
Yeah, no, and you can tell that it's such a passion for you, and it's so disappointing that there's, I suppose, like being plus size, there's just no, the big companies just don't want to do it, and it doesn't make sense to me because it's like people are desperate for nice plus size clothes, and I mean, a lot of people have to resort to um, the like Sheen, whatever it's called, and
Hmm.
it's so. I mean, a lot of clothes shops are not ethical, but they're really the lowest of the low, and people
Hmm.
sometimes don't have a choice. And it's the same, like you say, with shoes. Like you need clothes and you need shoes to leave the house, and yeah, and then when you spoke about people sneaking pictures of people, and there's no wonder people don't want to leave the house because they're just so scared of what other people think, and it's not their fault. Even people that are fat, big, whatever you want to call them, pe- people don't want to be big. Like nobody wants to be. So like yeah, it's just cruel. It's just cruel. But it's so
Yes.
great. It's such a good idea, and I really hope it goes well for you. And I'll be looking out for them.
Right. It's either that or Crocs, which, a lot of people wear them. But I see a lot of ladies wear Converse. My feet won't fit in them. But when I did, before the swelling really started and stuff, I would wear them and then my feet would hurt because of the arch support.
Yeah.
And now I wear, if I can find a brand that has good arch support, when my when I first started ordering orthopedic shoes from the internet, oh, I cried. I have this one pair. They're under my desk. I haven't been able to wear them. I've been sticking rhinestones on them, trying to make them look prettier. They're so
I
ugly.
know. It's like when the shoes have got Velcro straps on them, which I know are useful for people that have got mobility issues or like issues with grip, but try and just make them look a bit nicer.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, there's one pair of shoes, and it's for ladies or men too that have extreme swelling. And I'm telling you, it just looks like a giant clown shoe. It's
Mm,
so like, who wants to wear that?
no.
No one, you know? So anyway, I hope it goes well. And what's different about me is that when ladies get their shoes in, I think what's going to happen is they're going to see, okay, I've been wearing a 13 US all this time, but the length of my foot really is a 12, and I'll probably get a ton of returns from ladies who are like, I was wearing the wrong size shoe,
Yeah.
you know, to try and accommodate some room in there. And so I expect a lot of returns, and I'm gonna develop before the shoes get here some kind of a card that's like, your feedback is the most important thing we could get, because I'm hoping they'll say, oh, it rubs here a little bit, or my cuff, it's still hitting my cuff or whatever. So then I can make adjustments to the shoe and make it better for them for the next round. Um, I think a lot of companies are like, don't talk to us. You've paid the money. We're done with you. But that's not, because the whole purpose of the shoe company is to serve our community. So I'm here for the returns. I mean, they kind of are investment priced. And, unfortunately, I have to price them based on what the manufacturer charges me and my expenses.
Yeah, of
But
course.
they're going to be a little like in the low $200 range. And I don't want somebody who maybe even had to save up from like disability checks over a few months to be able to purchase these and then not be able to wear them. That's not cool for me.
Yeah.
So I really want to get it right for them.
Yeah. No, you can definitely tell that it's yeah, it's definitely gonna. I think it'll be a success. I think once you've hit on that market, it's yeah. I think you're gonna change lipedema feet forever.
I hope so. I hope they're
Yeah.
comfortable and we don't have sore feet at night.
Oh, I
That'd be
know.
lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll not keep you much longer because I appreciate your time and I'm sure you've got plenty to do. I just thought that I would I'll plug your social medias and stuff. So YouTube is legs like mine, Instagram is legs underscore like mine, and your website is legslikemine.com.
Mm-hmm.
If there's anything
Yeah.
else you
And
want to add.
oh, sure. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on I do a little bit of TikTok, but YouTube is where I'm really building up because the content's reusable. And I've been trying to do a good job of always using hashtag lipedema and then lipedema with the UK spelling as well,
I do the same.
so that yeah,
The
you can
American
find
spelling.
it. Absolutely. I will say that I'm here if you have folks that are in the market of providing products and services for folks that have lipedema. I'm always happy to review them, but I give an honest review. So there's that warning.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to connect women to, find what they're looking for. And a lot of times we just don't know that things are out there. So, definitely send them my way. And then what can I do for you personally? Like, how can I promote your brand and what can I do to help the folks that are following you?
I don't know. At the minute, I don't know what I'm trying to achieve, if I'm honest. I think for a long time I was having my surgeries, so I was focused on that and conservative therapies. But I think I'm going down the route of, this is just like an idea at the minute, but I want to build a website that is called something like Look It Up Lipedema, where there's basically just resources. It's like all these resources that are everywhere. I kind of want to bring them to one page. So I think that's my goal at the minute. And yeah, I don't know at the minute. I'm just floating about. But
Right, it'll blow up just like it does. So let me just tell you, if there's anything I have on Legs Like Mine, any pictures,
yeah,
anything like that, feel free to use them. If you need, even if you want to repurpose blog posts or anything that I've done like that, go for it. Everything that I have out there is just free, for the taking. So if it will help you in any way,
yeah,
and then of course I'll cross post whenever the video comes out and all that
yeah,
stuff. I'm
yeah.
super excited to be on your channel.
Oh
So
God, yeah, and we'll keep in touch. It's great
sure.
finding somebody who's doing, we're not doing the same thing, but we're doing similar things, and it's not competitive. It's like,
Mm-mm.
I know there's a lot of people out there trying to make money off us, and I feel like it's important that there's people like me and yourself who, we're looking at the research, we're talking to people. I think that's one of the most important things, like anecdotal life, and yeah, I think we both have this goal of just making life easier for other people with lipedema. We can collaborate, we can do anything. I'm always willing to just keep talking about lipedema.
Right. And I hope to see you at either the World Congress, and we're going to be out having pasta and all that
Yeah.
stuff, or the Fat Disorders Resource Society has a huge conference every year, and this one coming up is, I think, the weekend of April 19th. It's here in the States in St. Louis.
Okay.
And it's so fun because it's the only place I've been where there are hundreds of lipedema patients. And so I've only been twice, but the first time I went there, it blew my mind to see this room full of women that walked like me. It
Yeah,
was so
yeah.
crazy. So I hope to see you again, and thank you again for your time too, and for what you're doing. And I wish you the best of luck. And you are so beautiful in
Oh,
person,
thank
and
you.
in person, whatever this is, right? And it's really, your smile is just so nice and lovely, and it's really nice to see you in person. So thank you.
Yeah, no, you too. It's been great, and I knew that we'd get on, and yeah, it's just nice. Yeah, having people that get it as well. It's yeah. So I'm sure we'll be in touch very soon. Yeah,
Okay, well, cheers. I'm going to go finish my coffee. Have a great
I've
rest
got
of
my
your day.
McDonald's coffee.
Oh, it's the best, right? Okay, take care. I'll see you
Thanks a
later.
lot. See you soon.
Okay. Bye, Amy.
Bye. Bye.